When I was listening to you, it was the Zoom was halting. I hope this is okay. Anyway, uh, here we go. Stand back, stand by, and off we go. So, there we go. That's it. um, Annie, did that come through okay? All right, cool. So why do I need 6 cameras? Um, you don't need 6 of me, I can tell you that. But I work with several organizations that put on concerts, and the idea being that we'd like to live stream multiple performers. And so I'm thinking maybe 2 cameras on each performer, and we could do 3 performers and then switch between them. That's the idea. But I want to, the subtitle of this particular talk is Break Away from the Webcam. And I'm going to show you this while I move some cameras around here. Okay, get this out of the way. All right, so don't be afraid. I hope that somewhere along the line that something can inspire you here to maybe expand your video offerings on the old internets. And have no fear. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to show today is free, and it goes from free to cheap, and maybe a little more expensive in some cases. I forgot I got to move one more camera. Let me just move this here down like that. And let me switch over to this view here. So I got notes to follow, and
they're upside down.
Oh, I'm upside down. Hey, I'm always upside down. Let me switch that then.
No, it was fine. I'm just kidding. Just your notes are upside
No,
down.
that's right. I think it's probably left to right. It don't matter. You don't have to read my notes. So I'm going to suggest to you to consider 2 cameras, and those cameras, one would be on your face, like this one's on my face, so you can talk to your audience, and another shot, like this, which is from a distance that we can get more of your body, maybe get your camera in there when you're playing, and it's hard or impossible to do on your webcam, and webcam you gotta like crowd around your laptop. It's not ideal. So there's other options available for you, and those options are using your iPhone or smartphone if you have, using your iPad. A couple things that you have to buy would be, if you want to do an action camera, the camera that was on my guitar is an action camera, which is was made famous by GoPro. Just a little camera that I use these Zoom adapters to put in mic clips to hold wherever I want. And I would suggest having at least one of those available to you. They can do some like an angle shot or something like that. I have 2 of them. If I switch back here to this, what I have is my guitar camera right there. I have an overhead camera, which I'm going to show you stuff. I have another action camera over here. I have the camera I'm talking in here. I have a camcorder back there. And the one that's not moving is my iPad, which is locked up on me. So I'm going to tell you that having 6 cameras at once is a lot like this. Give me a second while I switch around here. Is a lot like, if you remember Ed Sullivan, the Ed Sullivan Show, where the guy, whoops, wrong one. Hang on. That's supposed to be this one. You remember Ed Sullivan and the twirling plates, and the poor guy has to twirl like 6 plates, and he's got several on the table. That's kind of what getting 6 cameras at once is like. But you don't need 6 cameras. You only need, if there's one of you, I'd say 2 cameras, maybe 3. And back to this. So how am I doing this? You might ask yourself. And I'm Zoom. I'm sending out via Zoom, but I'm front-ending with OBS, which there's been a couple talks we've had before. And OBS is free. You probably heard that. It's, in my opinion, OBS is the greatest piece of software that I've run across since Unix was new. I was a Unix fiend back in the day. OBS is just tremendous software. It's unbelievable what you can do with it. And if you're on a PC, raise your hand if you're on a PC. Nobody's raising their hand. Okay, thanks. You can connect OBS to Zoom so that all your camera stuff is done in OBS, and you can switch cameras just by clicking a button here. And you can be upside down if you want to. Let me get back to my main cam. But I'm going to say 2, and 2, you should consider 2, and I'm going to set up a 2 camera shot here. So what if you're into OBS, you can do this easily. And I'm going to suggest that one camera is on your body and another camera is on your face. And I should switch this one out because the iPad is stuck. But when you're talking, give me a second here. Let me add another camera. Okay, let's pretend. So when you're talking to the audience, you're looking at the audience. And when you're playing your guitar, you're over here, and they can get your whole body here, and facial expressions there. So that's something to consider. And even in Zoom, if you don't have YouTube, you can switch cameras. If you get 2 of them set up, set like you want, you can change your video source in Zoom. It's pretty easy to do. All right, so let me just go through the different kinds of cameras, and I'm going to turn this on so that I can show my desktop. The camera that I'm talking into is my iPhone, and I put it in a holder that you can get on YouTube. That it just like screws into place. I use these Zoom adapters so that I can use desk stands like this with the clothespin adapter. I just zip it in there, set it back up, and there I am. There's also holders for iPads that you can get. But I use these Zoom adapters all over. I probably have half a dozen sitting around the room here on the different cameras. Hang on. So I've got another action camera there on a desk stand with a zoom adapter. In the far I've got a camcorder on a mic stand, and I've got another camcorder here that's showing my desktop, and my iPad is in a holder on a mic stand, and another action camera over there in a holder. So I didn't want to buy 6 tripods. I have dozens of mic stands. So just by using that zoom adapter, I have a tripod in effect. So let me go over, so in my order of favorites, the least favorite is a webcam. You can buy webcams if you're on a desktop, and you can now buy them, but I don't really like webcams because they're made to go on top of your monitor, and they're pretty inflexible. So my second favorite type of camera would be the iPhone or iPad, which you can get an app for to turn it into a camera that connects via Wi-Fi to your computer. There's at least 4 different apps I've run across. The ones I like are IV-Cam, and the one you're looking at now is Epoch-Cam, and there's several others. By the way, you don't need to take notes because there's a YouTube video that I made with links to everything I'm showing where you can buy them, and I have links to all the apps for the smart devices. That's my second favorite. I'm going backwards here. My third favorite then is the action cam, like this baby. This is my second action cam. Oops. Again on a zoom holder. And that one is, see, I can switch over to that camera right there. That's that one. My favorite, in reverse order, my favorite camera, though, is a camcorder, of which this is a camcorder, and if I get this out of the way a little bit, there's another one in a distance. Now what is so great about camcorders is they're made for long-term video, so your battery's not going to run out, because in this particular case it can run off AC, and it has zoom, so I can set it where I want, and maybe if it's not close enough to me I can zoom in. All things that camcorders are good for. Now how do you hook these cameras to your computer? There's 3 ways. The typical webcam way would be via USB. So my 2 webcams are hooked via USB. My iPhone and my iPad are hooked via Wi-Fi, and my camcorders are hooked via HDMI. So in order to get a camcorder into my computer, I need this adapter here that converts the HDMI from the camcorder into USB. And so in effect, it is a USB camera. How many cameras can you get on your computer? I have 6, but it's on my computer, but it's a desktop computer, and I have extra USB cards in there. So so that's how I can do it. You can only get 1 USB camera per USB controller. So if you have a laptop, you can probably get 1 extra USB camera, but you can also do a Wi-Fi camera. So if you use your built-in webcam, an extra Wi-Fi camera like one of these action cameras, like an iPhone, and a USB camera like an action, you could possibly get 3 cameras into your laptop. The reason I can do 6 is I put extra USB cards in my desktop. Let's see. So those are the types of cameras. I'm getting close to questions here. How to set up multiple cameras. Maybe I'll switch over to capture my OBS screen here. And where are you? Is that it? So is that my OBS screen? Okay.
Looks like it. Yep.
All right, cool. So over on the left side of my screen is all of the scenes that I have. And a scene is just a collection of cameras and microphones. So this particular one I called the Epoch Only. It's my iPhone. It only has the Epoch camera in it. Whereas if we go to the big 6 screen, I've got 6 cameras in there and an audio source. You might want to go back and visit some of the OBS seminars that we put on. There's also a guy called Epoch Vox on YouTube that has about 100 OBS videos. Anything you want to know, from the 1.5 hour introduction to 5 minutes how you do this little thing video. So it's the information is out there. OBS is free. It's not that complicated. If you want to stay simple, like a 2-camera setup, it's not that complicated. I highly recommend that you check it out if you're not already using it. So why don't I just set up a new 2-camera scene? So let's pretend I just installed OBS. My internet connection is unstable, it says. Let's add a new scene, and I'll call it Farm. And now I'm going to add some cameras. They're called video capture devices. I already have them set up. I'll add that one, which is going to be my distant camera. And then I'm going to add another camera, another video capture device, which is going to be my close range camera, which is this. So, and I just drag them where I want. I resize them. I'm going to move this over here so it's more in line with the other one. And they're layered by where they are in order of the in the scene. So now I could be playing my guitar like here, and I can sing to either microphone. When the show's over, I turn to this camera and say, adios. It was great to know you. Don't forget to put a tip in the tip jar, tip your waitresses, and we'll see you down the line. And I'm going to switch off of this now and open up for questions. And hopefully somewhere there's a link to the YouTube video I made that's a half an hour long that describes everything that I have here, where you can buy it, and hopefully you'll take advantage of some of this and spruce up your own videos. Miss Annie?
Yeah, it's totally. The link is up there, as well as a really obnoxiously long link. Just ignore that one. I put a new link up there to, Dennis kept bringing up this Zoom adapter. And I was very curious about that, so I looked it up and found it on Sweetwater, which is, of course, my go-to for anything like that. So, and then Dennis's cameras on the cheap is also in the chat, but we'll post that a couple more times. So, we have a hand raised, and I see you, Steve, and I promise to get to you, but I have a couple of questions. Just sort of backing up, we were talking a little bit about when we were sound checking earlier, the fact that your audio and video is a little bit out of sync. And I think you were talking about a virtual, was it? Virtual audio cable.
Virtual audio cable, yeah.
I know we're not talking about audio at this session right now, but I just kind of wanted to kind of touch base on that and maybe just have you just give us a,
Okay. Now, Annie, you are cutting out on my end. Am I cutting out on your end?
you're not. Raise your hand if I'm cutting out on anybody else's end. You can always lower it again. Okay. I wonder if you're, yeah, it might be on your end, Dennis.
Okay.
You're working okay here. There's a little bit of a delay, but I know whenever you share a screen, what you're saying and showing us, the audio and video often get out of sync. So for those of
Yeah.
you who don't know, that's just a side effect of
Well, if
sharing.
I go back to share my OBS screen,
Yeah.
there's a free download. It's called Virtual Cam that you can download and install, and that makes whatever OBS is seeing, it makes it like a camera that I can use in Zoom. So I just select my OBS Virtual Cam in Zoom, and all the video goes to Zoom that way. The audio, I'm doing audio differently. I'm doing audio direct into Zoom, so there's probably a little bit of delay there from the time I say something and OBS picks it up for that picture to get over to Zoom. It's not totally in sync with the microphone. When I'm doing a simple two-camera setup, it doesn't seem to be much of a problem, but I'm loading my computer more than it ever thought it would be loaded.
Okay.
So they're a little bit out of sync. There's another donationware that you can get. It's called Virtual Audio Cable. And with that, if I go into settings on OBS and audio, if I look down here on the monitoring device, I'm using that virtual audio cable to send out audio to whatever I want to receive it on the other end. So over in Zoom, you can say that I want to get my audio instead of from a microphone from this virtual audio cable, and then hopefully the audio and video will all arrive in Zoom at the same time and not be out of sync. But I was trying to really get fancy. There was a couple other videos I was going to show you today besides this one. I was going to show you a video of how I got information on what I wanted, what I wanted to know. Let me stop sharing the screen. So, so there are tons of YouTube streamers that will tell you anything you want to know about cameras and other hardware. But the thing is that the really successful YouTube streamers use expensive cameras like DSLRs or mirrorless cameras that are $500 a piece. And I don't, if I'm going to spend $500, I want to get 5 cameras if I can. But anyway, these YouTubers are mostly gamers, so they have a little picture of themselves up in the corner like this, and then they're playing shoot 'em up games on the main screen. And I don't do shoot 'em up games, so I'll just show you this. So if you can imagine that they're doing the shoot 'em up games there, and they're talking in the screen, and there's dozens and dozens of hundreds of guys that do that and are really good at it and really know their stuff. So there's a couple of Epoch Vox and a guy I really like, another guy, I'll think of his name, that have dozens of videos on cameras, HDMI capture devices, microphones, anything you want to know, you can find out. I'm hopefully just getting you started, or maybe you're farther along than I am, but YouTube is a tremendous source of information.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis, I have a question. Can you go
Yeah.
back when you set up that new scene for farm and you had all those cameras already in your list?
Yes. Oh, you want to do a new one?
Can we do a new camera setup just to have
Sure.
an idea? So like if I'm literally starting from scratch and I haven't
All
done
right.
any.
I don't know if it'll let me because I got them all, but let's pretend. Oh, do
You
I
have
need?
you just yeah.
Am I sharing my screen? I lost track.
No, you're not yet.
No, you're not.
No.
So, so I hope my description is good then.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to add, I'm in this new farm scene. I'm going to add a new video capture device, and I call it new device. And then say OK. And then I can choose from all the cameras that I have on my system, and I'll try that one. And I'll say
So
OK.
it's just recognizing the camera that you've got. As long as you've got the camera plugged in some way or another, Wi-Fi or connected, however it's connected,
Right.
yes, we'll see
Yep.
the camera.
And on a lot of the smart device camcorder apps, you have to have a program running on your computer too to receive the receive the video.
Right.
So so I started this app called IV Cam. It's running in the background, and when that's running in the background, that lets me have it in the pull down list of things to connect with. And so this is IV Cam, the first one. The second one is Epoch Cam, the one that I'm using for my iPhone. There's another one called Droid Cam, which is for Android devices. If you have an Android smartphone, you don't have an iPhone, you have my pity. But because my Android device is terrible. It's a terrible camera. It does terrible in these apps, you know. But if you have a nice Samsung phone, it probably works great. The iCatch is one of my action cams. These two HD video captures are my webcams, and these are the. There's another smartphone app called Arian Cam, which I'm not showing today because my favorite is IV Cam and Epoch Cam. Oh, now I should mention that they all have free versions, which are the free version is usually somewhat limited by maybe you can only get like 640 by 480 and not full HD on it, or you don't get audio with it. So in the Epoch Cam one, I paid $8 or $9 to get the high definition one that has audio. Then I can plug my lavalier microphone into that. And one of the things that I could have done today is walk this camera, turn it on the backside, walk this camera around my studio, and show you what's what. So it's nice to have a Wi-Fi camera for something like that.
You're gonna connect.
And that's it. Those are what I have.
Yeah, there's some.
Um,
Dennis mentioned a couple things like 480 maximum. That's your screen resolution, right? So
that's a
if
screen.
something,
That's old tube TV resolution. So
yeah,
if you want to be retro and an old tube TV like, you go with a 640 by 480. But most of the time you want to be higher resolution. Which that's the number of pixels across, number of dots across, 640 and 480 down.
yeah,
Um, I usually go for 720, which is like quasi high definition, or 1080, which is full high definition,
mm,
if I can get it. But when your screen is like that big, let me do this one. It's like that big. It's not going to matter a whole lot. But
right,
when you bring it out to full screen, you're going to want some sort of high definition camera going in.
yeah. All right, well, let's open up. We got a couple of questions. I see Mr. Steve Deasy up there. Nice to see you, my friend.
Hey,
Dennis,
Steve.
you want to stop sharing your screen? we'll bring Steve in the spotlight. How do you feel about being spotlighted, my friend?
Oh, I don't know about that. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
No, yeah, that's always held me back as a performer. I never want to be spotlighted. But
Oh,
anyway, this is great so far. I think I raised my hand actually earlier because I tried to raise it because when he says, "Is anybody on PC?" and I went like this, and he said, "Okay, nobody's on PC." But
oh.
I do have a question. I have a comment and a question, and one is that I work on a PC and I have a Samsung S8, and their cameras are just fine. They're great. Um, so it might be more of a
Uh-oh.
which Android
Unfortunately,
you have.
you're stopped.
Yeah, he's working. He's still working for me, Dennis.
Oh, um, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get the question.
He
Oh,
was coming.
well, I want to, my question, that wasn't my question. I was just going to comment that I'm on Android, not iPhone, and I think the Samsung S8 and probably later are probably going to be fine.
Yeah, look
They
up
have good
Droid
cameras.
Cam. Look up Droid Cam, and some of the others work also that work on iPhone.
Yeah, I'll look up Droid Cam. I've been using IP webcam
Okay.
app, and it lets me just connect to my Wi-Fi by with IP address, and then I can select it, and it works great. But I'll check on the resolution, and that my question is more about the resolution because I was thinking when you're this isn't my S8. This is just my
Oh
camera
boy,
on my laptop, but
I lost.
what my question is more, is there a trade-off in how much bandwidth you're using on OBS through Zoom if you're using higher definition um, video versus like 720p? Like, are you causing a lot more um, bandwidth issues, or does Zoom do something with it to limit the bandwidth?
Well, I'm not sure how the virtual camera works in OBS, but I know if you're streaming, you you would then say limit your stream to 720.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the virtual cam in OBS does. It probably sends out whatever the camera is set at. So I didn't show you, but if I did a pull down on that camera, I can select the resolution. And
Hmm.
a lot of times I leave it default, but sometimes I pare it down to 720 because I know it's only going to 720 when it goes out to YouTube anyway.
Right. Okay. That answers my question. Thanks.
Yeah, I know, and I know there's 4K cameras now, but you need one whale of a computer and you need a 4K monitor to do anything with that. So I think I don't see any reason to go for our purposes, go beyond 1080 or maybe even 720. But 640 is a little shy of what you want if you're gonna have your whole, you know, the screen cover, um, your camera cover the whole screen.
Can the 4K cameras like action cams be just set to only run at 720p? Like,
Um, You can, yes. The thing about action cameras, and thanks for that question, Steve, because I forgot to say, action cams when you hook up UBS, uh,
OBS.
no, when you hook up USB,
Oh,
when you hook up
USB.
USB, it's too many acronyms. When you
Yeah.
hook them up USB, it takes whatever the firmware programmer, you're a firmware programmer, I think, Steve. Whatever
Not
they
anymore.
decide to
I'm a,
give you is
I'm
what you get. So there's lots of different options that you can set on cameras, but via USB you get what they decide they're going to give you. If you want to connect via HDMI, which these cameras have a HDMI connector under the USB, then
Mhm.
that comes out exactly like if you were recording on this camera.
And how much is that camera about?
Sorry, I lost you.
How much is that camera about?
Okay, the cheapest action camera is about $50.
Hmm.
Um, And the one that I was just showing you is about $100. So I know GoPros can be anything from $150 up to $400. But the same thing in GoPro and action cameras. If I'm going to spend $400, I want four. And so that's what I did. I spent this one is I think 70. This one over here is like $70.
Oh, okay.
Where are you? There you are. The
So
other,
they're reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do your research. I put links in the YouTube video on the ones that I bought. Um, the expensive one, the $100 one, has what's called clean HDMI. In other words, there's no overlays. It does, if you turn on a camera, it might tell you at the bottom that you're in 1080p, and that shows up in the HDMI if your camera doesn't put out clean, quote, clean HDMI. So do a little research on that before you buy, if you're going to do it via HDMI.
Nice. Thanks,
okay.
Steve. I
Thank
see
you.
another hand up. We're gonna go to Carrie.
Is this thing on?
It's on. Go,
Okay.
girl.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. I know, and stop me, Miss Moderator, if I'm going too deep into the wrong topic here, because I know this isn't really about audio, but you did touch on audio a little bit. We talked about the syncing issue, and I wondered about your thoughts. I mean, obviously we're musicians, so we have microphones laying around and so on, but unless we have USB mic, obviously we have to get some adapters or get an interface or whatever. But for people just getting started, does it make sense to, I know Zoom has a couple of products, one's like $220 and one's like 300 or something that have a nice like stereo XY microphone built in. Yeah, that's an older one. I actually have that same one. But no,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is Zoom now has the ones that are a camera and that great audio together. Like if you're just going to do a 2-camera rig and you got your computer, might it make sense to spend a couple $100 to get better audio along with the camera?
Yeah, there are those the Zoom camera you might be talking about. I think it's the 4N or something like that. Is meant to be pretty close. It has a very wide angle, so it's meant to be close to you, and you're going to want the microphone close to you also. I don't have any personal experience with those, but I do know that Zoom puts good mics in their equipment, and that's what I'm using right here. So when we get to microphones, if you have one of these and you didn't know, you can also use it as a USB interface. It's a USB mic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the whole Zoom conversation when you're talking about Zoom, the app that we're on right now doing our demo, and then the
Yeah,
Zoom
Zoom
cameras,
brand
and the
name.
Zoom microphones,
She's
and all
talking
that.
about
But
Zoom, the brand name.
yeah, Zoom, the brand name. Carrie shared a link with me, and I posted that in the chat as well. I think that's great. But Dennis, that just reminded me of something that you mentioned earlier, and you talked about if we just want to use 2 cameras and maybe don't want to mess with OBS. I mean, I think most people probably already know this, but it didn't occur to me until you mentioned to me earlier that I can just do this camera switch right there in Zoom. So I don't know how easy it is to demo, but you can probably explain it. Thanks, Carrie.
Well,
Were you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's it. The only other thing that I would throw out just as a talking point or something to think about is we have had a couple of instances where we've had shows, that canceled for obvious reasons, but they wanted us to supply video. And it's something to think about. I mean, I love the idea of like, if I got $400, I want 4 cameras. But I think another thing at least to think about, depending on the individual need, is that we're starting to get requests that, oh, well, we want your video, we want you to send video, we want to live stream with you. But there are some venues and some organizations that are starting to want to imply that it needs to be a certain level of quality of audio and video for them to share it, on their site or whatever. So again, that's not to say one's right or wrong. It's just something I think you need to consider maybe.
okay, I'm afraid I'm cutting out, but I get the gist of your question.
Yeah, I think
Is she still going, Annie? I can't
no,
tell.
no, no, she's done. And I think that I think what,
Hmm.
Carrie's point is very well taken. I think it just philosophically speaking, it's probably more important to have one really great quality camera on you and great lighting than it is to get super fancy and have none of that sort of look great. But I think with Dennis's experiment right here, like right now I think we might be dealing with a little bit of a glitchy Wi-Fi, which to me, that's really important as well. If you're not connected to an Ethernet, boy, you better have one heck of a Wi-Fi going when you're live streaming because the Ethernet, the Wi-Fi, I don't even if you think it's great, anything can happen to kind of interfere with that. So you want to have the best possible signal. So I think all of that's gonna come into play. But yeah, point really really good point, Carrie. And then Zoom, just in general, has its own challenges. I think. Dennis, are you with us? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do you want to just talk through that, just sort of sharing that second camera on Zoom for those who might not have thought of this before?
Okay. Um, Once you get it installed, there's a stop video little camera icon in the lower left corner. If you hit up the up arrow, and you can all do that now, it will list all the possible cameras that you could switch to. And maybe if you're on a laptop, you only have one. But once you get other cameras installed, they will show up there. So you just pick the camera that you want to switch to. I don't know if I can show you my Zoom screen or not, but you'll all see the same thing if you click on the up arrow by the little camera icon
Yeah.
down in the lower left.
Yeah, I've installed the Epoch Cam app on all my computers so I can use my iPhone, although that has failed on me too many times. But yeah, it's one or the other, not both, Carrie. Yeah, but what he's saying is if you want to have a close-up shot of yourself, like the way you were talking earlier about like doing a little close-up shot so that you can talk directly to people, get your face up close, but then have a backup, another camera that's further out to have your show.
Right.
And you can flip back. It's probably not something you're going to do in the middle of your show because it requires a couple of clicks. But it is just one option for flipping between a couple of different camera views.
And I would like in the introduction to your show, I would do let's see, I might talk my my
That's
poor computer. uh, I might do a close up while you're getting friendly with the audience, and then when it's time for the show, switch over to the body shot, so to speak. Now, I heard part of her question or comment about quality, and I'm going to say that the best quality you can get from a camera is going to be a camcorder or a DSLR. And the camcorders I buy are Canon Vixia cameras. I buy them refurb right from Canon. Uh, but with shipping and tax about $180. Um, in order to hook it into your computer, you're going to need this HDMI capture device, which is about $60. I have two of those cheap ones on order. One's $11 and one's $22, but they weren't here in time for me to test to tell you if they're any good or not.
yeah. Hey, Dennis, you're switch to your front-facing camera.
I'd like to.
Oh, is it not working? Oh,
It's
just
not
turn.
working. So I've dropped a few plates, so to speak.
Yeah, but that you're just like there's a lot of moving parts here, and
Yeah.
it's certainly a lot of really great ideas for trying if you want to just try and get creative with your streams a little bit or even like recording video. I think a lot of people have done this, and I know you have the video that you did up on that we also shared a link for, where you yourself are playing one song, but you've got several cameras pointing in different at you differently. That's not a live stream. That's a video recording. That's kind of cool to look at, right? As a
Yeah, so in that case, I just recorded I just turned the cameras on as cameras,
yeah.
and then brought in all the files from all the cameras and lined them up in some video editing software.
Ah, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
We are very much hoping that next week's Tech Talk is going to be on video editing.
Oh,
And but I'm curious, just what app do you use?
I use Vegas. It was originally by Sony and was bought by Magix, so it's Vegas. It's about an $80 app.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them in the $80 range, and then you can spend 250 if you want to.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
we've heard a lot about DaVinci. Oh gosh, it's got a second name, but I'll think of it. But I think that's the one we're going to look at. DaVinci Resolve. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Hey, Matt, if you know anything about it, let me know. iMovie, people have talked about iMovie is also free. There are people that can't stand it, I know, and so video editing is just a whole nother piece of this puzzle that we'll get into. I think there was a question. Mark Smith mentioned something. Can you just sign in twice? But Mark, I don't know what you meant by that. Was that a question for me personally, or was that about something else? Mark, if you want to elaborate on that, raise your hand because I'm not sure I understand the question. And the last thing I wanted to ask was about the USB card. Maybe
Hmm.
above some people's heads, but I figured since we have a few minutes and no other questions, you mentioned USB card, and do you want to just kind of give us a nutshell of what that meant?
Okay. Um, there's a computer piece of hardware called a USB controller, and your laptop has probably one of those. Um, and like I said, you probably only get one camera per USB controller. But on desktop computers that have extra open slots, you can buy cards, USB cards that fit in those slots that you can then plug a camera or two in each one of those cards. So I'm going to give you a little nerdy tech information here, but a USB 3 card actually has two controllers on it. One of them is a USB 3 controller, and another is a USB 2 controller. They go down different wires. So in one card, if you can have a USB 3 camera, like my capture device for the camcorder, and you can have a USB 2 device like my action cam. So I just got two extra cards in my desktop, and that gives me the ability to do the extra cameras that I couldn't on a laptop.
Do you have one that you can show us? Is that what you showed us earlier? What it looks like? The USB
No,
card?
it's buried. It's installed in my camera, or I'm in
Oh, it's
my
installed
laptop.
in, oh, you have to actually install it in the laptop.
Yeah, you take or the
Oh.
desktop. Yeah. Now, there is if you unfortunately, as time goes by, they take away good features. A few years ago, laptops had a card slot that you could put an express card in, and you can get a USB card that goes in that express card slot, which I may have one over here somewhere. But that could also give you the ability to add an extra camera. I'm testing that on my laptop upstairs.
So, but you don't recommend like a hub, a USB
Hub
hub.
is not going to help you
Oh, because
because
it's still one connection into your computer.
it's still the same controller. You're just spitting that controller four ways now,
Oh,
and the controller can't handle it.
yeah. For cameras, right?
Cameras. Now you could maybe do one camera and your sound device
Right.
into a hub into a USB card because the sound device doesn't take as near as much bandwidth as the camera does.
Right. So for us, so we have our Focusrite that needs a USB. We have The Ethernet, which now, because it's a new computer, I have to get an adapter for that, and that goes into the USB.
Good.
And then we have a camera, a USB, the camcorder I'm using here. And I only have two USB outs on my computer, so I can plug in that hub into one and have a camera, audio, and my internet Wi-Fi. And then I have a spare one if I wanted to do another. This is just me and our setup right now. I haven't tried it yet. I'm just saying,
I
like,
haven't tried it yet. Well,
theoretically.
well, when you get to try it, if you find out that the camera doesn't work through the hub, see if you can go direct. Move
Yeah.
something else to the hub if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I am, my mind is pleasantly exploding right now. Any final words of wisdom
Well, I just like to say I know there's a ton of stuff. There's a ton of stuff to know, and there's 2 tons of stuff that I don't know. I hope in my scatterbrain way that I gave you ideas, because that's the whole thing. How can you spruce up your own show? And you can do it by adding cameras, and it doesn't have to cost you a lot. In fact, it can cost you nothing. And I would like to see it. Let me know. I think my email is shared. Annie, one other thing that I'd be willing to do, if there's a half a dozen people that want to do a session on OBS, kind of like 1-to-1, but actually 1-to-6, I'd be willing to do that and get people going on that
Okay.
if there's enough interest.
Yeah. For those of you who we'll put you on our mentor list because there's a lot of people that I think are still kind of struggling with the OBS, and having one-on-one sessions with somebody I think would be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Put me on your list.
Yeah, that's OBS, like I said, is the greatest piece of software I've run into in a long time.
Yeah, there's enough, especially for free if you think about it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, this is the moment when I say to you, I'm going to put us all in gallery view. Have everybody, if you know how to click your gallery view in the upper right corner. And if you're still with us, give us a big old wave and a big old applause for Dennis. Thank you so much for your time and your efforts. And go check out his video on the cameras on the cheap out there. We will be back next week with the Tuesday Tech Talk, topic to be determined. I just really wanted to say a lot of T's right in a row. But we hope it will be on video editing software, which is what we're going for. If any of you out there have some expertise you think would be helpful to share with this community, you've seen what we're doing, please, please, please get in touch with us. Go to farmvirtualconnections.org or just email conference@farmfolk.org. I can put that also in here. We are looking for your feedback. And we have a lot of cool stuff going on. Outside of this Tuesday Tech Talks, we've got our peer sessions. We have a talk coming up next month on accessibility, which is going to be a really great conversation, and so much more. So I hope you'll stay in touch and join us again. And everybody say thanks, Dennis, and have a great day. Bye, Facebook people, if you're still there. We'll see you next time.